To the Living Light East-West Approaches to Weight Loss webinar with Dr. Sari Patel, MD. She's presenting with us from New York City, so joining live over the Google Hangout. We're based here in Boone, North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And Dr. Sari will be sharing more about this East-West approach to weight management, about combining the best of Ayurveda, the East, with modern medical practice and medical perspectives. To the Living Light East-West Approaches to Weight Loss webinar with Dr. Sari. So I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Sari, and she will start guiding us through the slides.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming on this Saturday afternoon. So welcome. Andrew, you would have to help me move the slides forward. Thank you. So our objective for the following 45 minutes, 1 hour is going to be to learn the integrated, both Eastern and Western views on managing the mind, and most importantly, the talk is about managing the weight. We would also be sharing some details of a very unique program that Boone Retreat Center is offering, is Living Light Weight Loss Program based on Ayurveda and yoga. And then we would be highlighting some of the unique features of how the East and West philosophies are integrated. I will give you some practical tips that you can just start following if you're concerned about being overweight. Yeah? Next slide, please. So let's first look at and I'm making a very safe assumption here that we know so much about allopathy. We know so much about how we view health and in general other diseases, and particularly overweight by allopathy definitions. But I would just go over that. Health is defined by Ayurveda as a state of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, as well as a complete equilibrium and harmony of body, mind, and spirit. So two key words here, the spiritual well-being and the spirit, which are the missing facts in today's way how allopathy, the modern, the Western medicine defines health as. So the World Health Organization definition is, good health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. I work in a hospital and I see this all the time, that we're so much focused on to the disease management, but we somehow not put so much emphasis on who is suffering from this disease, the individual, the person who is a complete being, spiritual, social being who has their own unique physical characteristics and mental characteristics. So Ayurveda really very nicely incorporates that spiritual and the spirit part of it. Next, please. So by Ayurveda, health, a good health, also known as swastha. The very Sanskrit word swastha means being established in the self, swa-arstha. The definition is when the digestive fire, also known as Agni in Ayurveda language, is in balanced condition, the bodily doshas, and as we move forward, I would define what doshas are based on the Ayurveda definition. When the Agni and the doshas are in equilibrium, the waste products such as urine, feces, sweat are produced in normal levels, not too less, not excess. The senses are functioning normally, and the body, mind, and spirit, again, this complex of body, mind, consciousness, are harmoniously working, and that is known as being swasth or good health. There's a little cartoon there indicating that these three are in complete harmony: body, mind, and the spirit. Yeah? Overweight is defined in modern medicine as either overweight, depending on what the BMI is, or obesity, when there is excessive amount of weight beyond a certain BMI, the people are called obese. According to Ayurveda, being overweight, the Ayurveda word is medo rog. Medo has something to do with fat or adipose tissues, and rog means disease. So Charak, who's the Charaka Samhita, this is the whole essence of Ayurveda described by Charak, who's the founder, who's the father of modern Ayurveda, as we can call. He has described this as a disease state where the adipose tissues and fat metabolism is affected. This is also known as being sthul or sthulya rog. Yeah. So we would move along looking at both allopathy and Ayurvedic philosophies. So in modern medicine, the etiology for being overweight, there's an inexhaustive list that you study in medical school, and we're not going to go over that. But very common one is physiological, and most of the overweight comes from this, where there is lack of physical activity, lack of exercise, we're not burning as many calories, and on the contrary, we are consuming increased calorie amount, which is not being burned, so the excess gets accumulated. So this is the most common etiology, physiological. And of course, there's a long list of physical conditions, which basically includes everything that is described in the medical books, such as genetic, familial, hormonal, you name it. So many associated comorbid conditions leads to overweight. A lot of side effects of the medication can lead to that. So these are physical reasons, and then there are psychological reasons. Nowadays, it's kind of like a buzzword in media. We hear that psychological hunger. People who are very anxious, very nervous, who are going through a lot of stress, they tend to eat unnecessarily without any awareness. So the psychological, emotional is another category. So physiological, physical, and psychological. This is how modern medicine defines what the causes or the reason for fat accumulation is. And we'll look at the way, what kind of, because this webinar is not about Western medicine management of the overweight, so I'm just going to go over the bullet points where a lot of attention is being paid to the prevention of accumulation of fat by increased physical activity, by increasing exercise, and by reducing the calorie consumption by diet restrictions, etc. So prevention is the mainstay of the management, even in allopathy, just like Ayurveda. And then the treatment components, so the treatment components include, there are diet restrictions, vigorous exercises, and then this slide doesn't read, nowadays, in addition to the pharmacotherapy, the medications to reduce fat, there's also surgical interventions being offered, such as gastric bypass and things of that nature. Okay, next slide. And allopathy actually screens or measures the overweight or obesity based on the body mass index, which is a calculated number. There are calculators available if you feed in your age, height, weight, and it gives you the BMI. But just to make the understanding very simple, I have put the ready-made numbers here. Anybody whose BMI 18.5, they are underweight, obviously, less than 18.5. The normal or the good healthy weight range is 18.5 to 24.9. And there are also tools and some devices that one can find in the surgical stores or pharmacy stores where you kind of just align the height with the weight and you get this number. So it's very easy to calculate body mass index. Anyone who has more than 24, I would say, or let's be a little bit more liberal and say more than 25, somewhere between 25 and 30, they're considered overweight. And definitely when the body mass index is more than 30, it's morbid obese state. Yeah. Again, BMI can be used as a screening tool, but this is not really diagnostic of body fatness because different kind of body fatness leads to different medical complications, like the core or the abdominal girth increasing, but other parts of the body such as limbs are not that fat. That is a very good indicator for people having coronary artery disease, for example. Yeah. So the body mass index is just a very general tool for us to see who needs what kind of attention. Next, please. How Ayurveda measures the overweight. The Sanskrit word is ati sthula rogi. Rogi means patient. Sthul means heavy, and ati means excessively. So it talks about medo rog, or it is ati sthul rogi. Same thing. A person who, on account of incoordinate increase of fat and flesh. So here it's not just the fat, but also the muscles, is disfigured with pendulous buttocks, belly, breasts, and whose increased bulk is not matched by a corresponding increase in the energy. So what happens is people may look very big, but they don't have that much energy. So that disproportionality, that disfigurement is defined by Ayurveda as atisthul rogi. And then the one of the best tools available to the modern world is pulse assessment. And again, I should say that this is an amazing technique that is disappearing from even Ayurveda schools. There are 8 diagnostic tools in Ayurveda, and one of them is pulse assessment. The Vaidya, or the Ayurvedic doctor, puts their 3 fingers on the peripheral pulse, and they could find out about the prakriti, vikruti, what kind of imbalance is going on, and not just that, even the degree or the extent of that imbalance is measured by the pulse assessment. And it's really such an amazing technique, which is beyond the scope of this discussion. So we can talk about it at some other time. Andrew, give me the next slide, please. Yeah. Before we go about talking what are the etiology, what's the mechanism, what are the practical tips you can all do at home to at least prevent overweight, or just to allow yourselves a starting point, I'd like to go over a few slides that tells us not everybody knows about Ayurveda. So a few slides we can also talk about what Ayurveda is and understanding about this amazing science. It's a Sanskrit word, Ayurveda, and it is made up of 2 words. Ayu means life or lifespan, and Veda, it is knowledge. And what is whole life about? It's not just body and mind. Yeah, the major component that in today's modern medicine we don't deal with is the spirit, the essence of the life, the essence of the being, yeah, the chetana, the consciousness, the awareness. So Ayurveda deals with that. And allopathy, yes, it's a science of understanding and knowing everything about the body and mind. It's there now. Even allopathy is moving more and more in the field of spirit, not by the word spirit, but they look into some of the emotional and psychological factors which go into that spiritual philosophy. Next slide, please. Yeah, we can just talk about Ayurveda, how amazing it is. I am fascinated by this science. It's an ancient, and I should say it's the most ancient science of health, healing, and happiness. This is actually the very first science that dealt with being healthy, being happy, and dealing with any imbalance or disease. It's a timeless art. For 5,000-year-old science, it still is so relevant in today's world. It's a well-balanced medical science. It recognizes that each human being is unique combination of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha doshas, and the natural balance is responsible for the individuality, the differences that we see in people's physical structures, in people's mental thinking, in the way they respond to external factors, their environment. It all depends on that uniqueness of the human being, and Ayurveda completely relies on that uniqueness, which is the essence. It's a very holistic approach while treating a patient, and it's based on very laws of nature. the whole Ayurveda thing, even the treatments, the diagnostic tool, everything is very natural, and hence, if followed appropriately, it has absolutely no side effect. And we would talk in the following slides more about the basic philosophy of the Ayurveda, such as the Trigunas, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, the 5 elements, also called Panchamahabhuts. And then we would also be talking about the dhatus and strotas when we talk about the mechanism of how we tend to accumulate the fat. Ayurveda is not just a medical science, but it is also concerned with our social, ethical, how do I say, intellectual, spiritual life. It combines the accuracy of the science with the sublimity of philosophy, metaphysics, poetry, art, you name it. It's a fascinating science. Next slide, Andrew, otherwise I'll keep talking about Ayurveda. What are the aims of Ayurveda? In fact, these are the aims of any healing system, including allopathy, but there's a basic difference that in allopathy, just very recently, we have started recognizing what is called the quality of life. But Ayurveda 5,000 years ago was looking at how to promote and maintain health in a already healthy person, how to cure and eradicate, meaning totally remove the disease in an ill person, to restore the balance in life, the balance of the 3 gunas that I was talking earlier, and the balance of the 5 elements, and we will be talking more. And it pays emphasis on the 4th one quite a lot, to improve the quality of life. It is not just healthy, but it is also being happy and feeling great about self, feeling great about what's around us. So it's a peace within and around. It's a harmony with everything. And Ayurveda's last aim is also give longevity, which allopathy believes in also. But I have seen so many people being supported on the artificial life support, and of course they can be kept alive for an indefinite period of time, but we compromise there with the quality of life. So Ayurveda is very unique in terms of that longevity with well-being, harmony, equilibrium, balance in life. Yeah. Next, please. Now, we will be talking about some of the basic philosophies of Ayurveda. So Panch Mahabhut. Panch means 5, Maha means like the grand, and Bhutas means elements. So the 5 grand elements, everything in this universe, in this existence, is made up of, any material thing is made up of these 5 elements. There is no 6th one. So ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. And I've just depicted with some pictures to make it very clear. And just the very fact that we feel the air, we look at the fire, we dip our hand in the water or feel it or drink it, we already know what are the qualities of these elements. Yeah. So during this presentation, this webinar, we would also be going over how it applies to us. What is my prakriti? What are the predominant elements in me? Yeah. So everyone, we encourage all of you to kind of walk this journey with me and see what elements are predominant to you. And it is really, really important to know as we would be talking more. Andrew, give me the next slide, please. Yeah, so everything, as I said, is made up of 5 elements, including our own physical body. Yeah, and these 5 elements exist in every single human being, living people, in different proportion, and that is what makes a person very unique and very individual. Vata, so based on those 5 element combination, there are 3 kinds of prakritis or nature or basic constitutions that people are categorized into. So people who are known to have Vata prakriti, they have the qualities reflecting the elements of space and air. So space and air, what does that do? Space is just empty. Air is moving. Sometimes it doesn't move very fast. Sometimes it moves very fast, storms and winds. So keeping that air-like quality in mind. Then Pitta. Pitta's quality is reflecting the elements of fire and water. Water is cooling, fire is burning. Fire also indicates the transformative force, something that's changing from one state to the other. And Kapha, the quality is reflecting the elements of water and earth. What does water and earth do? Earth doesn't move much, so there's not much movement, but there's a lot of grounding and stability. And so we will talk more about it as we kind of start to identify ourselves who and what kind of prakriti we have. Yeah, next slide, please. So again, this slide is just an additional slide saying the same thing, the tridosha philosophy. Next one. Yeah. So before we go over this, I just wanted to say why it is important to know our prakriti, because it can help us live a better life through number of things. One, each prakriti responds to different foods in a very dramatically different way. So knowing our prakriti would allow us to have a better life through a suitable diet, whatever is agreeing to our system. It's called ahar in Ayurvedic definitions. And then right lifestyle, choosing the right lifestyle. We can make our life better by knowing our prakriti, knowing our strengths and weaknesses, anticipating what kind of diseases we are more prone to, more inclined to have, and how to prevent them before they actually manifest. And then the three gunas, the three doshas, the prakritis, really if we know about ourselves, it gives us a better feel, it makes us better equipped with interactions with our families, friends, and people around us. That means it really just translates into the relationship and how we interact with our environment. So Vata, as this slide indicates, leaves and trees, and they are moving, they indicate movement. So Vata is made up of, this biodynamic force is made up of space and air, those two of the 5 elements. As you can see, even a strong wind can really move the ocean waves. So if air is moving, if that movement is very strong, out of balance, then it can cause the picture only depicts that it can cause some imbalance or some disturbance. Next slide. Pitta. Pitta has 2 elements, fire and water. And we will see in the following slides what it means. Next. And Kapha. Kapha has 2 elements, water and earth. Now, by showing these combinations and these slides, what am I telling you? So let's understand. Can you give me the next slide? Yeah. Based on the predominance of these 5 elements, the different proportions of these 5 elements, there could be 7 categories of prakritis. People could be exclusively Pitta prakriti, Vata prakriti, Kapha prakriti. They could be a combination of Vata and Pitta, Pitta and Kapha, Kapha and Vata. And then the last and the 7th category is Saman, where all 5 elements and all the 3 biodynamic forces, this energy, are in equilibrium. Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Okay. So how do we Andrew, can you go back to that Vata slide? So again, we'll give you some practical tips on how to understand Vata Prakriti. Just the very fact that you see air and wind and movement and emptiness here. Vata people are light body frame, they have light body weight, they have less stamina and resistance to disease. They have, they tend to get, because there's too much air in the lower intestine, so they tend to get constipation and they lose weight very fast. They never gain weight. They have low and hoarse or high pitched voice. They're very light and quick. And if you are sitting in your office and a patient walks in your room and they're very talkative and they're very thin and they're just moving very fast, I immediately know they're Vata Prakriti. Yeah. So just like the qualities of air, they are light, they have interrupted sleep, there's too much movement going on both mentally and physically. They have you can actually see visible network of veins on their hands and legs. The nature and the emotions are quite variable. It moves like air. In 1 minute they're angry, the other minute they'll forget they were angry and they would be on a different emotion. Very quick initiation of action. They're very spontaneous people. Then these are also the people who are quick in passion and affection and aversion or disinclination. Everything is happening very fast there. They learn something very quickly, but the bad side of it is they also tend to forget things very quickly, which is in some ways very good because they don't remember too many of the bad experiences. Easy to let go. Things are moving for them. They're very lively, very enthusiastic, and creative. One of the hallmark of Vata people is they are very creative. Creativity comes into the space. Yeah, comes from movement, comes from spontaneity. So they're very creative people. The other thing is they could lack consistency in action just by the very fact that they have a lot of air in their system. So these are like some of the characteristics, physical and mental characteristics of Vata people, and maybe you can start paying attention to if you have some of these elements. Yeah. Now, the Prakriti is important to know, and we would be talking about what are the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha pacifying diets which can go very good with you. Yeah? So Vata people, because the air, the space, there's coldness, there's dryness. So usually Vata people feel better if, and they should have hot water throughout the day, but not cold water. So we tend to drink a lot of cold sodas, and if you're a Vata Prakriti person, you're actually making it worse, your Vata imbalance. Yeah. So next slide, please. Then understanding the Pitta, just the very fact that you see water and fire there, these people have a lot of fire in them. They're medium body frame, medium weight, very intolerant to heat. They like cool environments, dislike the hot drinks, food, and environment, and that is what they should do. They should choose like relatively cooler environment and drink room temperature drinks, or maybe to some extent a little bit cooler. They fire, again, they're Jataragni. One of the Agnis amongst several other Agnis in the body is also the Agni of hunger. So Pitta people have really good Agni, and they have excessive hunger and thirst. They are rapid digesters and rapid metabolizers. They are not the people who gain weight unless they have some kind of Kapha imbalance or Vata imbalance. They have, their skin tends to be a little reddened. They are very inclined to get lots of moles and freckles and skin burns and pimples and skin problems in general. They also have very sparse hair, tend to get balding very early. Hair falling is a usual tendency for Pitta people. They profusely sweat, and there's a strong body odor. They have very soft, firm joints and muscles. And where is this coming from? Because they also have, in addition to fire, they also have water. So there's this softness. There's a little bit of lubrication. They're not completely dry like Vata. They are very sharp, intelligent, and creative in nature. You know, if you have to really, if you're working in your office and somebody mentioned that there's a fire in the building, I would look up to a Vata person because they're very focused, very committed, and very organized. They would know how to get out of that building, as opposed to a Vata person who still they're spontaneous, but they don't know if they're doing the right thing. So they would move from one judgment to the other. And Kapha, they would be very happy sitting in their office, munching on some cookies. Yeah. So Pitta people are very intelligent and very sharp, organized. They're great leaders. They're radiant, very good communication skills. They have tendency towards the anger. When the Pitta, fire component, increases too much, then they tend to get angry and irritable, especially under stress. They tend to be edgy. They are very fond of arguing. Like a normal healthy pitta person would have really logical reasoning and thinking, and you would be impressed. But when they are slightly imbalanced, they could be very argumentative and angry and things like that. They are moderate in strength, wealth, lifespan, and knowledge. Requires a job in cooler atmosphere with creative, intelligent work. So those are basically just some of the personality traits of people who have pitta. But again, not all pitta are exclusively pitta. They could also have some elements of kapha or vata for that matter. Yeah. Next slide. So kapha people, as I said earlier, these are the very happy go people. They are least bothered by anything within them or around them. They are hefty, robust, thick body frame. It comes from having that earth element with the good and strong musculature. They have a good immune system. They are very vital, happy, smiling, laughing people. Slow digestive and metabolic rate. That is why they are a little bit heavy set, because whatever they are eating is not burning completely like pitta. Requires less food and drink, but in fact they love food. Smooth and deep voice. They have very smooth, delicate, fair skin, clear eyes, clear face, often very good looking, big eyes, good looking, white teeth people. Slow food intake and speech. Everything moves very slow, like, you know, everything is sluggish. You mix water and earth, what comes out? It becomes little mud, and mud is like just sitting there. It's not moving much. They have very steady energy, very slow and graceful in action. Low body temperature. They don't sweat much. They are strong, well-formed joints. Again, there's a lot of lubrication. They dislike cold or humid climates. Their long-term memory is very good. They don't forget things very fast. The same thing, they also tend to accumulate, not just the memory, they tend to accumulate wealth for that matter. Just like they accumulate fat, they also accumulate wealth, and these are some of the most wealthy people are kapha people. They become excited sometimes to the extent that they could be fearful or irritable, but all this happens very slowly, if at all, in an imbalanced kapha state that happens. They tend to be very attached and entangled in the relationship because the water element makes them very loving, very affectionate. The water has a gluey quality. It binds, it holds people. So kapha people are very loving and affectionate, but when it is out of balance, they could be very entangled and you know, quite over-attached. They walk slowly. I mentioned that they move very gracefully, and they carry out work that's heavy or strenuous, although they don't like to, but they could be very strong and they can do all of that. Enough said about the Vata Pitta Kapha Prakriti. So now it's little homework for all of you to apply on yourself and see what body type you are, because it would come very handy when I say that certain foods are Pitta pacifying, Vata pacifying, or Kapha pacifying. Yeah. And Vikriti is what is not in balance. People are born with constitution that's called Prakriti. No one can change it. That Prakriti is decided at the time of conception, depending on the ovum and the sperm. Yeah. So you cannot really change it after you're born, or you cannot really change it because you do this or that. But Vikriti is when your natural tendency, when your natural Prakriti goes out of imbalance. Some of the characteristics I describe when they go either very low or very high. Sometimes the Vata could be low or high, and same thing applies with Kapha and Pitta. The Vikritis could be two kinds. Sharirik, meaning bodily Vikriti, bodily imbalance, and there could be mental or manasik imbalance. So as I said, Vata, Pitta, Kapha 3 could be either low or high, that is imbalance. And at a mental level, these three forces could manifest. I have not written Satvik, which is the best thing to have. the manasic imbalances could be too much rajas and too much tamas. Tamas is dullness, lethargy, delusion. Rajas is people who are very active, constantly in action. Yeah, so that's manasik vikruti. Vata pitta kapha when imbalanced. So according to the Ayurveda philosophy, this statement is really very important. Ayurveda says that when these three biodynamic forces are working in equilibrium and harmony in that balanced state, people are healthy, they are swasth, they are in good health. But when these three forces are going out of, sometimes there could be more than one imbalance. It is not just vata imbalance, it could be combined or complicated by other doshas. So, and that imbalance is the very beginning of the disease. And there are so many things we could do just the minute somebody, where their diagnosis that some imbalance is happening in your vata, pitta or kapha, and then before the disease manifests, people could actually do something about it so that the disease doesn't even come. And that is another amazing, beautiful, unique thing about Ayurveda, that before the disease finally manifests, a Vaidya can diagnose it by pulse diagnosis, pulse assessment, and then offer some solutions, such as the very simple solutions could be lifestyle modification, diet modification, or if it is very deep-seated imbalance, they could even offer you some herbal supplements. And then when people have too many toxins, too much imbalance, complicated imbalance, then panchakarma can help. Yeah, so there was a slide that just we zoomed through, that is the Sapt Dhatu. The body also has, these are the dhatus, are the body tissues which after we eat, these are the tissues that are made and retained. For example, the food that we eat, we digest, we assimilate, and that is rasa. Rasa means that nutritional plasma that is being absorbed into the blood circulation. So now the rasa becomes rakta, that is that life force, that RBCs, WBCs, that rakta. And then the blood tissue feeds into the muscles, which actually covers the bones. And meda is that adipose tissue responsible for lubrication, and the meda feeds into the bones, and the bones become strong, and that they help us stand and walk. And then eventually the rasa, the life force, flows into maja, which is the nervous system nourishment, and that leads to the very essence. Actually, it just says shukra means reproductive tissue, but it's much more than that. It's the ojas, or the very essence. So I'm glad that we put this slide here, because when we are eating something and that rasa is becoming rakta, meaning the blood, and the blood is feeding into the muscles and fat, all these liquid, rasa and rakta, are the fluid. They are flowing through the channels. Can you give me the next slide? And yeah, those channels are called strotas. So these channels are taking the nutrition from one dhatu to the other, feeding, giving nutrition to the other dhatus. So in overweight, what is happening is that some of these meda channels, meda prabha channels, they get blocked, and as a result, the nourishment doesn't reach to other dhatus, and it just, whatever we eat, it keeps getting accumulated at a very fat level. And what can be done about this? Some of the very simple measures, like drinking lukewarm water and adding a few drops of fresh lemon. I'm not talking about the preservative mixed lemon juice, but fresh lemon, few drops into lukewarm water, 1 cup, 2 cup, whatever you're used to drink in the morning, and adding 1 teaspoon of honey. And again, the honey, it would be better if the honey is 1 year old. If you drink that every day, as soon as you get up early in the morning, it really opens up some of these strotas, or channels, this circulatory channels, and it improves that nourishment from one level to the other. There are a lot of such simple things that we can do to open up these throtas. The very simple one I just told you. Also, before we go to bed, and doesn't matter what prakriti you are, even if you're pitta, in the night time before we go to bed, the last thing we should be drinking is really hot water. Hot but tolerable. I'm not saying steaming, boiling hot, but it's not lukewarm. It's hot water drinking before we go to bed in the form of like a tea, sip, sip. And that really dissolves the toxins or the amas and opens up some of these throtas. So there are a lot of simple things one can do. And then, of course, Panchakarma takes care of, Panchakarma treatment takes care of, it works at different levels and takes care of all the imbalances before they manifest into the disease. Next. According to Ayurvedic medication, the etiology of any disease, and particularly Medo Rog or overweight, is imbalance of these doshas, dhatus, and strotas. Let's move to the next slide. This cartoon depicts, and actually you might want to read this, due to excessive eating of very heavy, cold, sweet, and oily foods. And this is the staple diet for Western Hemisphere. This is all we eat. Very heavy, sweet, cold, oily foods. And when we continue to eat that days after days, weeks after weeks, months after months, there's derangement of this digestive fire. The Agni becomes deranged. As a result, the food that we are eating is not getting properly digested, let alone assimilated. This improperly digested food is called ama, or in simple English term we can say toxins. And this ama, or improperly digested food, is what disturbs the process of nutrition in the body. Remember what I was saying earlier with the dhatus, nourishing one dhatu nourishes the other. Due to this production of the ama, the very first dhatu, rasa dhatu, is affected. The very nutritional plasma is affected, and it's not properly formed. As a result, the following other dhatus also get affected. So this is the very basic pathophysiology or the mechanism of how the food can create obesity, and how we can, by changing the diet, can take control over some of our weight gain tendency. Next, please. So Ayurveda recommends multi-dimensional approach. This is a very important slide, and I'm going to spend some time here. There are at 6 different levels things could go wrong, which could lead to overweight. Weakening of the digestive fire or metabolic power in the adipose tissue. We keep on hogging, keep on eating, but most of it is either not getting digested and not metabolizing. That's the primary reason. Then this leads to the production of the toxins or the ama that I talked about. And this leads to, because even those throtas or the channels require vata, biodynamic force, for the things to move in the channels. And if these channels are blocked by ama or toxins, the vata is not moving. As a result, there's built-up of vata in the intestines, and that creates its own sequence of problems. There are blockage of channels, and also there are some lifestyle factors like excessive sleep, sleeping during daytime, being lazy, waking up at a very late hour, during kapha hours, lack of exercise, no yoga. So not taking care of the body, again, goes back to ahara vihar, the lifestyle, the what we eat, how we eat, all that leads to different factors. All these different factors lead to the weight loss. And if we deal these 6 factors, the 6 reasons or the etiology for overweight, if we deal with this, then obviously, unless it's a very genetic or familial or hormonal problem, most of the overweight problems can be overcome. So give me the next slide, please. And this is a very important slide. So it lists those 6 causative factors or 6 levels where the problem is, and what are the interventions we can undertake. So If somebody has very poor digestive fire and they are not metabolizing what they are eating and tend to accumulate adipose tissue, then they need to be on Agni balancing herbal supplements. There are so many other things one can do. Throughout the day, we tend to, in our office, we have like a Coke or some drink that we keep on drinking the whole day. If we are used to drinking fluid in between throughout the day, better than drinking Coke, we can make some herbal tea, like some tricketu powder, or we could have there are so many home remedies that I can actually share with you, that you prepare a decoction of the dhana powder. I'm only coming with the Hindi words, and cumin and fennel seeds, and let it boil, and use that decoction as throughout the day if you want to sip some fluid. Yeah, so that's all Agni balancing herbal supplemental drinks. Then ama production, the very simplest thing that I just shared with you is hot water before you go to bed. Do you drink that? You can have triphala added, triphala churn added to that, or you can have triphala tablet before you go to bed, and then make some lifestyle changes, like use some toxin burning herbal supplements. And I think Andrew can share more about it with everyone, about the Sri Sri herbal product, the Sri Sri Ayurveda products, which are available in the form of tablets at our Boon Center. So if you have had a assessment done by a Vaidya, and if they prescribe you, those could be made available. Then aggravated vata problem is another reason for going through that vicious cycle of eating too much and then aggravating vata and eating too much. So that leads to that can be eliminated by panchakarma treatment. Again, I can't really emphasize the importance of panchakarma detoxification or purification more than what I have already said. It works at different levels. Then there's blockage of the channels. Fat reducing herbal supplements are available. They could be given both externally. There's massage with powder called Udvartana, and they could be steam with herbs, and they could be oleation, internal use with some herbs. So all that can be done. Then lifestyle factors. Personalized Ayurveda diet, there's no alternative to that. Your Ayurveda diet should be tailored, should be geared towards what kind of prakriti you have. Then Dinacharya is what daily routine you follow, and Ritucharya is each prakriti tends to react to the season, change of the seasons and weather in a different way. So that Ritucharya is the seasonal regimen that one can follow to create a balance. And then lack of exercise, there's no excuse for that. We all have to get involved into some physical exercise, maybe yoga postures, maybe, and it can be gradually increased, doesn't have to be all in the same day. Andrew, how much time do I have? I want to leave enough time for questions. Okay, next.
Sure, I think we can move on to the questions. Or do you want to take a couple minutes to wrap up?
Let me see what is the next slide. Yeah, we could skip that. So there are types of treatments in Ayurveda. How do we manage our body predominantly? And of course, all these interventions mentioned here also manage our mind. Yoga, physical activities, detoxification process like Panchakarma, I have been emphasizing that. Special diet. In Ayurveda, it is said that food is medicine. We don't have to take medicine out of. All the food stuff has medicinal value. And then if you have to take some supplements, yes, that's okay. And then the next slide talks about the managing mind predominantly, but all these interventions also help with body relaxation. So mental purification, very unique breathing process that we offer through our happiness program. It's Sudarshan Kriya, different kinds of pranayams, meditations, and of course being happy in life. The value of music and chanting. So much modern medical literature has documented that. So that is there. And next. So Panchakarma is the science of rejuvenation, and the Boon Retreat Center offers a complete package, and the each package is determined based on individual prakriti and vikruti, and then that person gets that particular kind of treatment. So we can stop these slides. I would be ready to take some questions if there are any. Let me go to that slide, the sustainability. The beauty of we are launching a weight loss program, and we have done this in the past also, but it is a modified weight loss program. One of the very unique features of this program is the sustainability. Most of the modern diet restrictions lead to vigorous weight loss and then you regain it back. But with Ayurveda based weight loss program, the sustainability, the long term, we form a basis for the lifelong learning by changing the ahar, which is what is being consumed, such as food, what we watch, what we hear, all that is considered food by Ayurveda definition. Vihar, how is our lifestyle, how we behave throughout the day, what do we do during seasons changing, etc. And then Rasayana is the herbal supplements. So the sustainability comes from following this after the program is done. Yeah, Andrew, we can stop and take the questions.
Sure. So if you have a question, feel free to either type it into the box at the bottom of the page below the webinar video portion. There's a graphic and a chat box where you can type in your message and press enter to send. Or you can tweet them, hashtag AOL Retreat. That's at AOL Retreat. One question, Dr. Sari, is, what's one thing you could recommend that people could do at home as a, sustainable approach to weight loss from an Ayurveda perspective?
Very simple thing is, when you get up in the morning, I already mentioned that lukewarm water with 1-year-old honey and few lemon drops every single day religiously. If one drinks that, it works at different levels, reducing the ama, opening up the channels. That's really a very good weight loss thing, which can be very easily done. The second thing is hot water. The third thing is, there are certain fruits and vegetables, and of course you follow your own prakriti based diet. For example, Vata people cannot have really very dried or junk food or frozen food, but they can definitely have sweet, sour, and salty. So fruits, vegetables definitely are a good idea, no matter what prakriti you are. So choose the diet that's specific to your prakriti. Now, one thing I want to tell you, that someone who is predominantly kapha prakriti, you don't aim for becoming very skeleton figure. That's not going to happen. So you also have to accept what can be done. But to prevent further gain, one can also do this trikatu. It's called pipli, or pepper, long pepper into hot water with some cumin seeds, fennel seeds. Throughout the day, one can drink. It has no side effects whatsoever. One can continue to drink that kind of. If you're a Vata person, little bit hot water. Hot tea kind of thing you can continue to drink. And of course, yoga should be part of. There are yoga postures which are very specific for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata is always moving, so more stabilizing poses would be a good idea, as opposed to Kapha people who don't like to move too much. So for them, the sideward bends, the pelvic rotations, anything that moves the abdomen and the muscles around is a good idea. So that definitely would prevent depositing the adipose tissues in those areas. So specific yoga is a good idea.
An interesting thing that you mentioned is that it's not about having a skeletal figure or reducing to some very small thin size necessarily. The Ayurveda approach what is the goal of this, of weight management with Ayurveda?
You see, if you're a Vata person, you're never going to gain weight. Yeah, and if you're not happy with your figure and you want to reduce weight, you're going to create more problems. Going back to Kapha people, they should have realistic goals, because they are not really going to reduce down to half of their size. Yeah, so having that acceptance is one thing, and then the other thing is, if you are in complete harmony, are you happy? Are you, one of the definition of health is, are you smiling? Are you in harmony? Are you balanced? And if that is there, then that's the definition of health. Then you should not reach for something that's not meant for your prakriti. Yeah. So in the beginning, I defined swastha. Are you in that state of well-being, even with whatever weight you have? And that's health.
And what would you say the signs of that well-being are?
Well, are you enthusiastic? Are you creative? Are you kind, compassionate? Living those human values, so to called. Yeah. Are you energetic? Are you joyful? Are you sharing with people? Do you laugh? Do you smile? Are you enthusiastic about doing things? That's the sign of health and success.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sari, for sharing. You know, this holistic approach to health is really so just the idea of well-being as feeling good, feeling energetic, and also extending to the social sphere. You know, also including human values, how we interact with others. It's a very inspiring message.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that really impresses me about Ayurveda overall, and then that also becomes a part of the programs. Dr. Sari mentioned that we are having some Ayurveda programs coming up at the center. These include a weight loss program in 2 weeks. There's only one spot left there, and then some Panchakarma programs where, you know, a lot of these details are taken care of for participants. So there's not, you know, so much thinking or worrying that has to go on about it. Yeah. I'd like to thank you again for sharing with us, Dr. Sari, and to all our attendants, for participating and joining the webinar today.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I didn't get to talk so much about Panchakarma, but I really highly recommend that. It's an amazing process: detoxification, purification, rejuvenation, whatever retreat you want to call it. It's really great. Thank you so much again, everyone.
Signing off from the Art Living Retreat Center.